Hello, everyone. We're here again with our STN podcast. Now, this time around, we have an individual who we've had before, actually. He's been at our live meetings. His name is Rob Niederheiser, and Rob is a law enforcement officer out in Bloomsburg. Rob has an interesting story as to how he engaged in the whole sex trafficking conundrum that we're dealing with on a daily basis right underneath our noses here every single day. And Rob, I want to welcome you to our podcast.
Thank you, Doug. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And I have to say that Rob is a black sheep in his family, too, by the way. Rob's dad and I are chiropractors, as are many of Rob's uncles. Rob went a different path and got into the law enforcement field, and he's done a great job over the last several decades, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Rob. So, Rob, we just had a conversation about what got you engaged in this whole sex trafficking issue and starting your ministry, which is a pretty amazing ministry called Light Duty. So Rob's Light Duty ministry started when he was called, and it's pretty interesting how he was called to duty to take on this mantle. So, Rob, maybe you can give us a little bit more insight into your history and what really brought you to this point.
Okay, thank you, Doug. So back in February of 2023, on a Monday, I remember vividly, I had the opportunity to listen to a trafficking survivor from our area. Now, we grew up in the 80s, both of us, a time where I thought none of this was even around. And in our discussion, I had been an officer for 25 years at this time. Never at any point have we had any training regarding this human trafficking or exploitation. So sitting in the auditorium and listening to her speak how she was trafficked in our area and by her father was absolutely crushing and heartbreaking to hear. Definitely left an indelible mark on my mind leaving that day. And so when the following day, which was a Tuesday, I had an online training just in general. And so happened that there was a gentleman from the Pennsylvania Department of Homeland Security that also gave a presentation of human trafficking in a case that he had. So now it's 2 days that I've never had anything in 25 years. So I thought God was giving me a sign. So Wednesday morning at 5 a.m., I'm praying at breakfast by myself at the table before work and, pretty much saying, God, if this is something that you're trying to get me into or trying to give me a sign, please let me know, make it obvious. So ironically, 11 a.m. that day, I get a text message from a friend. Hey, we're looking to start a human trafficking rescue home. Would you be interested in joining our board? And that was how I first got into it, was Learning to Live Beloved Ministries and getting on their board with building an emergency rescue home, which is a 0 to 30 day. If an officer comes in contact, this is where you would take a survivor, at least call them, and they would come, get the survivor from you and then get them the help that they need to recover and full restoration. And that was great. But it just felt like as I'm going through the meetings, we're kind of dealing with everything after the fact. And the more I learned, the more I got sickened by like what was going on and decided to start something that was, what we call left of bang, which is left of the actual trafficking incident, like the prevention aspect of it, which ended up making Light Duty Ministry. Good. Which we're all on light duty for followers of Christ, right? So
absolutely. And you used the word just now, ironically, and I know you agree there are no coincidences in any of this. You were called and you stood up, and we need to see more of that. We need to see more people who get the calling and don't just ignore it. He's talking to us all the time, and we just have to listen and move. So You know, a lot of what you're going to present, I have to say, Rob, is going to be rather shaking for a lot of folks. You know, you just mentioned one thing that is a startling statistic, and that is the number of parents who engage their children in sex trafficking. And I know you're going to talk more about that, but just the fact that someone who has been blessed with children would consider that is just unfathomable. You know, it really is just something you can't even understand how someone could do that. So I know you've got a lot of statistics and things you want to share with us. So I'm gonna kind of be quiet here and let you go ahead and bring some of this to life for us, Rob.
Okay. So basically, human trafficking is, for anybody who doesn't know, is the use of force, fraud, or coercion for labor or services, or for the engaging in commercial sex acts. So that is the initial of where we're starting. However, the more I get into this, you learn about the recruitment aspect of things, you learn about the statistics. And just to give some statistics on what Pennsylvania is dealing with, according to the Human Trafficking Hotline, Pennsylvania alone, 641 signals in 2024. And of that, 287 cases were born, and there were 676 survivors of those cases. So obviously, some of the cases had multiple victims or survivors associated with them. And that's just to give you the breakdown. And the age group, 212 of those were adults. And this is the heartbreaking part, 77 were minors. So yes, there is an unfortunate aspect to this where the minors are involved in this.
And that's just the ones that you hear about. I mean, in other words, the ones that are reported. I'm sure there are many others that are not.
Yeah, and from what I've discovered is the reporting aspect is very similar to domestic violence cases where it's very rare that someone comes forward. Like we think that an officer reaches out to somebody and says, "Hey, are you being trafficked? Are you safe?" They're not going to run into your arms because they're brainwashed to be very suspicious of us and law enforcement. So it takes, I think the time was around 7 attempts in the average, just like domestic violence. So the recruitment and grooming aspect is very intentional with these guys.
It's very progressive from what I understand.
Yeah, and a lot of it, for our kids, at least, is occurring on technology. So the technology per day of our use, 8 to 12-year-olds, is 6 hours. Jeez. And for 13 and 18-year-olds is 9 hours a day, according to Common Sense Media. And on the average, 1 in 9 of the youth receive sexual messages online out of that.
Wow.
And most of this, you have to say, well, how does this occur? Gaming systems, social media, anything with a chat feature. These predators will come in, they disguise themselves on these chat features as they're the same age as your child. And they'll spend months targeting a victim. They'll identify the vulnerabilities, if the child's having issues at school, with identity, with self-esteem, or if the child is having problems at home, they will find those stress factors and they exploit them. And they'll spend months grooming them. And once they gain the trust, then they start feeling the need. They'll send gifts, whether it's through the gaming system, cyber money or whatever. And then they start the isolation process and, getting them away from family and friends. And once they do that, then they twist it. And that's when the exploitation begins.
And we know that evil always uses techniques to break up the family, to separate individuals in the family. And this is the unfortunate part. They look for a clink in the armor. They look for a little weakness, and they capitalize on that, and then they build on it by utilizing, as you said, bribes really
Yes.
for the child, and gain their confidence. And once they have their confidence, then they can exploit them.
Yeah. Yeah. And between 2021 and 2023, I know after COVID, this online predatorial aspect of it really skyrocketed. There was a 300% increase of online enticement from 2021 to 2023, according to Thorne. And this slide here will tell you like 40% of all the kids have received cold solicitations just to send images of themselves, intimate images or videos. And if you look at the age range, that alone is startling if you're a parent.
Sick, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got such a twisted group in our culture, in our society, that would even contemplate this with a child. But they're vulnerable, and they have weaknesses that can be capitalized upon, as I said. So you talked a little bit about what got you engaged, how he called you, and what about the organization itself that you started? Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how it all came together for you?
Sure. Well, it was very intimidating when I first started out. I thought I was the only one that would ever, be interested in doing this. I ended up getting a coworker at the time was work with me. He did the cybercrime stuff, and he thought it was a fantastic idea. And so we were the first two. And then God brought us a whole, cadre of people, from an adult probation guy, a law enforcement officer. We have a person in victim services, a retired ER nurse. So we have the medical aspect of things. Someone works in the healthcare insurance industry, and then a church employee. So, and what we do when I started out was we're just trying to take, and my idea is a candle, right? So we're taking our light, and when we give a presentation, we're lighting other people's candle and empowering them with this information to take it forward and spread this light, because this stuff survives in the darkness. It's in hiding in plain sight, but it survives. It's like picking up a rock and seeing everything underneath. The more we light an area up and the more knowledge it's out there, the more parents are protecting their kids from ever even being harmed by this through good communication. So we're trying to get ahead of it. Our job is to go out and educate the community, so that they can take that, and then maybe they start a parent group through PTA to make awareness for the kids, or teachers get together and they form an organization. I think teachers are critical in this fight, because outside of the family, they're the ones that have the most exposure to the kids, and they're going to see the difference between the school year of how they progress from maybe they start out this happy-go-lucky kid and they just, implode inward. And people in medical field, nurses can form or doctors can form a group that, hey, we're going to get together and we're going to look for these signs. We're going to start this group in our hospital, and this is what we're looking for. I have a friend who works very intimately with Guy Singer here, and doing human trafficking awareness. So
that's great. That's great. And I don't know if you felt the way I did when I was called to start STN to unite folks. But my question to the Lord was, why me? Why'd you pick me?
Yeah.
What skills or attributes do I have that you want me to use? But, our three core values here are our biblical foundation, our constitutional framework, but I call the third our educational keystone, which really locks the other two together. And education is the key, but tandem with that is engagement. So, as you said, you want to get the information out, but this information can be frustrating if you don't know what to do with it. So, the fact that people can have a resource such as yours, and there are many others in this field as well, I know, that they can either engage with, become part of, or bring back to their own home church and get it going there. I really think that those are the important things that we can lead people to do and give them guidance in how to do it, perhaps. So the fact that, you have the biblical aspect of what you do, the ministry you've started, is a critical issue. I mean, people have to be able to engage in this to fight what is happening every day all around them.
Yeah.
But you have some other statistics for us, I know, and some other information. So why don't you share that, Rob?
Well, it's funny you said about why me, because I was the biggest introvert, and I'm thinking, why are you having me come out and publicly speak, God? Because I'm not that guy. I felt like Moses.
Yeah, right.
Stutter,
Some rocks in your mouth.
Yeah. So yeah, he pushed me right off that limb pretty quickly. So yeah, I mean, another pressing thing that outside of the online enticement is the sextortion, and that can kind of morph off the online enticement, or it can come through the Snapchat features and all that. And the scary part is this is probably the fastest growing crime that we're dealing with amongst the teens. 1 in 5 teens are reporting experiencing sextortion.
Now, Rob, just to interject, can you define that for the viewers? Sextortion. What specifically do you mean by that?
So sextortion is threats or blackmail to expose somebody through sexual images or videos in order to make them do something. Most of the time, it's cash oriented. They'll use a fake image or an image that they already obtained to connect. Now, mind you, this is after they've already groomed the person that they're talking to believe that they're actually a guy or a girl from their age group that they're interested in, and they'll send this image, and it'll slowly progress to the point where they start sending them a nude to get the person that they're targeting to send them a nude. Once the person or the teen sends them that nude, they got them. And then they turn it really quick, and they start intensely saying, if you don't send me another nude, more videos, if you don't send me money, then we're going to send this all out. I've had instances where they said they're going to send it to the school administration, to all their friend group. They'll go on the social media that they have, and they'll send them out to their friend group. And the teens feel, obviously ashamed and embarrassed. So a lot of them are remaining silent, as this statistic is 1 in 3 victims remain silent. And the scariest part is, out of this group that's affected, 1 in 7, consider harming themselves. And several have, unfortunately. And that's obviously, sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Rob, but it's such a vulnerable age as far as, the turmoil that they're dealing with internally. And then to have this on top of it, I'm sure that your last statistic there, many of them are just pushed over the edge with this.
Yes. Yeah. There's one story that was just in the past year and a half. The young man was actually ended up falling victim to this. It was people from overseas that were targeting him, and they were being very intense, and they wanted a couple $1,000. And he's like, I don't have that. I have $30. Can I send you $30? I think it was. And they're like, no, give us this, and he ends up, within 30 minutes ending his life. So yeah, this is definitely a heartbreaking issue that obviously you can see why, we got into it with both feet. And so, yeah, we just recently successfully completed our 501c3, which
Good.
Thank God for that.
Absolutely. And getting back to that, Rob, to have a situation like that where the child feels they have no one to talk to, no place to go, nothing that they can do about a scenario where someone's extorting them, and they know they're going to be in trouble either way. And their only out is suicide. I my heart goes out to them. You know, they feel they have no one that they can confide in at that point, or that can help them.
Well, and that's the key, right? So what we finish each presentation with is, okay, instead of dropping this huge weight in your lap and saying, okay, have a good night. So what do you do with it now? So how do we as parents, how do we as teachers, et cetera, how do we fight this?
Right.
And that is to create good communication ahead of the time. Maintain the good communication. Check in on your child. Check in on the students. Hey, how you doing? The student feels off today. Your kid's off. You pick them up from school. Maybe they're quiet or quieter than normal. I know talking to teenagers is tough because how was your day? Good. Anything happened? Nope. You know, so you kind of have to have more probing questions than that. And I think we always give them the tools with the questions. So when you're online, has anyone tried to reach out to you? It was a, question. And what would you do if that happened? Why do you think someone would want to reach out to a kid? That's also another question that you could ask and talk, conversation starter. And then can you think of about any time someone would try to use a picture that you might send against them and how that could go wrong? Like, can you explain that? So,
yeah, and this is part of the problem. I mentioned to you offline that, I see so many parents that are so proud of their kids that they post all kinds of pictures of them all over the place. And, just that in and of itself is something that you have to be so cautious about because, someone will see the kid and, somehow get their information, get engaged with them. And before you know it, they're being, drawn into this, so to speak. We just had a graphic up there about some things that perhaps parents can do also. I saw something about canceling apps. What suggestions do you have for people about what they can do to deal with this with their children once something is exposed or perhaps they have a concern or challenge with?
So this slide is of concealing apps. So these, I think, started out these apps in a good idea of people being able to store their passwords, like to all their work email stuff or work stuff, or anything that you have at home with technology, that you can hide your passwords. Well, now youth are using these apps to hide images and hide, stuff from their parents. So if you see these on your kid's phone, I would highly recommend checking your kid's phone, on a weekly basis. Let them know, hey, this is part of the deal. I pay for your cell phone. This is what we're doing. I spot check. And it's not that you distrust them. It's just I tell my children, you might wander into something that you don't know. So it's just like a security system.
Right. As you say, communication is the key with your children and doing it the right way so that you don't create that distrust where they think you don't trust them, but yet you come across with the concept that, hey, sometimes you may not realize that this is something that's going to be a problem for us in the future. Using the term us rather than you helps too because it draws you together as a family. So, I know, there are so many things that can be done to prevent. And I know that that's a lot of what, light duty is all about is prevention as well as, helping after the fact. But the prevention aspect and the educational aspect is critical. Do you have any other thoughts relative to that as well, Rob?
Yeah. Obviously checking your child's phone regularly. If you're saying it's their property, I think that's very dangerous to have that mindset, especially with today's discussion alone should change that aspect for you. And there are technologies out there like Bark app that you can attach to your phone. They have great phones that look just like iPhones. And you can obviously purchase this app, and I'm not getting any kind of kickback. This is just something that I've seen with all my discussions and through research that they actually have stuff that will flag bullying, any kind of issues, like flags words like gun, stuff like that, that will go right to the parent's phone. I have a friend, he has his whole home under the Wi-Fi with the Bark system, that, just to monitor everything that's going on with his kids. And again, they might think it's, invasive, but I look at it, it's like a virus protection for your computer type of a thing. Like, we're not, big brother. It's just, we're concerned with your welfare. And obviously there's dangers out there that you might not be aware of.
Yeah, and again, it's all the communication, how you present it to your child,
Yes.
and it's concern and caring rather than, spying or monitoring what you're doing, right?
Yeah. All that was love.
Yeah, exactly. And statistically, you've got some parental controls here that in this graphic, maybe you can go through each one of those and give us some idea where parents may be able to make some adjustments in what they're doing with their child.
Yeah, I like to manage the screen time because there's definitely lots of documentation. I follow a couple people. There's a guy that has Protect Young Eyes that's on social media. He is a technology expert, and he helps parents, walks them along through the screen time, and also Scrolling to Death with Nikki Petrucci. That's another. She actually has a podcast you can listen to that will walk parents along the process of what tech is doing to kids' minds. So we obviously know that based on the recent lawsuits going on with technology, that more than an hour a day on cell phones and technology are starting to stretch the limits with cognitive issues. So I think the screen management is important. No technology, no cell phones or any other like computer devices in your child's room overnight. Yeah. So again, so managing screen time is very important. Blocking the websites. There are certain websites that maybe you don't want your kid going on, like Roblox has already been flagged as extremely, precarious with kids. A lot of the predators are going online, and from what I'm reading and what I'm seeing, Roblox is very slow and reactive of how they're, catching up to the location tracking and monitor content. And monitoring content is the biggest one. That's going to send any kind of text conversation right to your phone as to what's going on, and what conversations your child might be in that may be harmful. Picks up anything from the trying to harm themselves, like those conversations, or any websites it gets on that talks about that, like any Google searches, stuff like that. It'll let parents know. And
monitor content is a specific app, or is that
that is inside all this? This is all encompassed within.
All in Bark. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are all things that you can do through that Bark app.
Yes.
Or with the Bark phone, or whatever you need to do. So yeah, I think that's great to be able to have a pretty good concept of what your kids are doing, utilizing that Bark app. I think if we can educate, first of all, and engage folks in some of the things that you've outlined here that they can utilize to communicate with their children and to have some oversight on what they're doing on their cell phones and with their screen time. But you also have had experiences with individuals that have come out of sex trafficking, and you've aided and assisted with that through your ministry and through your duties as a law enforcement officer. Maybe you can give a little bit of insight into some of that and what some of these people have dealt with and engaged with, and the outcomes that they have as a result of that.
Yeah, so probably one of the most recent, we just teamed up with Fierce Love for Good. They had a situation where somebody that they knew was involved in a sextortion, and they were a high school student, and they called me a Saturday and said, hey, we just have this person that disclosed to us that they have currently, at the moment right now, are going through sextortion. And so what we did is we called, or I got a list of information, called her back and said, hey, this is what you should do, the steps to take. And that is, number one, do not send money. And if you have sent money, stop, because all they're going to do is continue to ask. At this point, she had said that nothing was sent. Next thing to do is to stop all communications, to block them from the person that's trying to extort you from all the social media stuff. Then report them to the social media company. And next thing to do is report them to the police. And then finally, most importantly, do not delete. I know the first instinct is going to be the embarrassment. So you want to delete anything, messages, all the images or anything that you sent, that they sent. Keep everything. And then that helps track them, the offender down. And fortunately, before we got the phone, I sat and prayed with her. We talked about, making sure that they fall in the good hands of a law enforcement officer. And they did. They got a fabulous officer that ended up taking control of this investigation. And they ended up got with the FBI and found the offender actually in overseas in London.
I guess a lot of it comes from overseas, from Asia and from Europe. It's not just here that this is occurring. It's a lot of different places that they're targeting our kids, and they know there's money here. So that's part of the impetus, I'm sure. Awesome. What else can you share with us, Rob, before we sign off today?
Just stay vigilant. If you're a parent, if you're a teacher, you're on the front lines. Thank you very much to all our teachers out there. Just if you're law enforcement, teaching, parent, this is not something that we can coast on. That we can just assume that, yes, our kids are good kids, and I think that's the biggest thing. Nothing that they do and make them understand, hey, this is not your fault if you happen to stumble into this. But again, the open lines of communication, and stay vigilant, stay current on social media, stay current on what's going on. I know life is busy, life is hectic. I know on our website, we have a family resource page. We try to stay up to date with things that will help parents, the Scrolling to Death podcast and the Instagram stuff, which will lead you to other things. Just stay ahead of the curve as technology. It's tough because technology is constantly changing. And before I go out and speak, I have to see what apps are going on in current, just because they're constantly changing.
Yeah, it happens fast, I'm sure. And so if folks want to get in contact with your organization, Rob, how can they do that?
Yeah, they can email me at lightdutyministry@yahoo.com. Or they can send us the traditional mail at Light Duty Ministry, P.O. Box 801, Berwick, Pennsylvania, 18603.
And how about a website? Do you have a website they can go to?
We do. Lightduty.org. Very simple. Lightduty.org.
Perfect. Well, Rob, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your insights. And actually, I appreciate your ministry and what you've been called to do. Folks, this is an important issue for all of us. Our children are our future, and the people that prey on them are evil folks. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They are motivated by a number of different things, one of which can be money, as you've heard. So be vigilant, be aware. Engage, get involved with groups. Maybe you could start a group at your own church to help educate people. And Rob would be glad, I'm sure, to come out and speak to your church. And I will share one other thing with all of you. And Rob, this is going to be important for you too. I'm going to take to our board. We just completed one large event that we did in cooperation with Morning Star Fellowship Church, and that was our Truth and Love Conference. It was titled Christianity, Islam, in America. We had two great speakers, all of which are posted on all our social media channels now, and you can watch the event there. But our next event, I'm going to take to our board to get approval. I'd like to have a sex trafficking, human trafficking event, and have organizations like Rob's there, not only to speak, but to give you more information and share their experiences and their organization with you further, and maybe you can get engaged with some of these groups as well. So we'll be talking more about that in the near future. But Rob, I want to thank you and commend you for what you're doing in your organization, Light Duty Ministries. And we'll look forward to speaking with you again in the future, Rob, and hearing more about some of the things that you can share and that you've learned and the folks that you've helped. So thank you again, my friend.
Thank you, Doug. And I appreciate you guys considering that conference and being a bearer of light. Thank you.
Absolutely. And don't forget, tell your dad I said hi, okay?
I will.
All right. Take care, everybody. And thank you for watching. I hope that you will share and like this post like you do with all of ours. And if you want to support us, you can do that through the QR code that'll be at the bottom of this as well. So take care. Have a great day. And we'll be back with you soon.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I just want to take a quick moment to thank you for being part of the Shield of Truth Network community. For those of you who have been with us since we started, you've seen us evolve from our early monthly in-person meetings where we would gather together as a group, exchange ideas, and bring in speakers to educate on a variety of important topics. As the mission grew, we expanded well beyond the in-person meetings and have now evolved into virtual platforms, allowing STN to reach a much larger audience and connect with people far beyond our local community. If you are encouraged by the work STN is doing and believe in our mission, we invite you to support the Shield of Truth Network. Your support helps us to continue to educate, produce content, and reach more people with information that matters. You can use the link in the description or the QR code here on the screen, or visit Shield of Truth Network to donate. If you're not able to donate at this time, we certainly understand, but you can help in a powerful way. You can share this video with a friend or family member and post it to your social media. Also, if you enjoy our content, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new release. All of these actions help us to reach more people, expand our mission, and make a real impact. We are grateful for your support, as this mission would not be possible without you. And we look forward to what God has in store for our future. Thank you for being a part of the Shield of Truth Network's mission, and God bless you all.